Hello, welcome to Aussie Yarning. Today is Sunday, March 16th, and this is episode 29. I didn't record last week, and as a result, I've got an enormous amount to talk about, so I better get on with it, hadn't I? Firstly, I need to give you an update about my health. On Monday, I had to post on the Ravelry site that I wasn't able to do a VKN because I was just too sick. And that was just the very last parts of what I've been dealing with for the last 2 months. And last week, I finally got a diagnosis of what has been wrong with me for the past 2 months, and that is that I have an overactive thyroid. Now, up until then, I knew two things about thyroid. You could have an apart from being normal, you could have an overactive thyroid or you can have an underactive thyroid. And what I knew about those two was that if it was underactive, you could put on a lot of weight. And if it was overactive, you could lose a lot of weight. So obviously, if you had to have a thyroid problem, having an overactive one was the better way to go because you could lose weight while you had the problem. No, that is not exactly how it works. There's a lot of other symptoms other than losing weight, of which I didn't lose very much at all. I know I've lost some in my neck and in my arms, but from my tummy down, I think I've actually put it on. But first of all, what the thyroid does is it produces a hormone that affects the entire body. So it basically controls your metabolism. And it produces the hormones that keep your metabolism working well. So to have an overactive thyroid means that my metabolism was working much, much faster than it should have been, which meant that my heart was racing all the time. And as a result of that, obviously, I was exhausted all the time. One of the other symptoms of that, which is very unpleasant for a knitter, is that I had tremors. So as I would be knitting, I would be shaking. And very hard to do patterns in knitting when your hands are shaking and you can't quite get the needle into the stitch. So that was a real pain. What were the other symptoms? Oh, the one that I can obviously see has affected me the most is that it leaves you very unclear in your brain, that your thoughts are scattered. You can't think clearly, which is always my problem, but obviously was accentuated quite a lot in the last 2 months. And one of the other symptoms is that you get so hot. I thought all my hot flushes were just going berserk, but it's another symptom of an overactive thyroid is that you get very, very hot and you can't tolerate heat. So I'd be sitting in the kitchen with the air conditioner on, still sweating, and people would come in and say, "It's freezing in here, why have you got that on?" But it was my kitchen, so I left it on. So that's what I've been going through over the last couple of months, and it was a relief to finally get a diagnosis, to know that all of the symptoms that I was experiencing were all to one condition, that I didn't have a multitude of things going wrong with my body. So I'm now on large doses of whatever that is that you take when you've got an overactive thyroid. I have to go and have tests and see the specialist, but I can already feel that the medication is working for me. So I'm not quite as muddle-headed as I have been, and I actually feel better now. I was getting quite sick, and for a person who's been healthy all her life, it was a bit of a shock being quite sick. And I think there's several VKNs that I've missed out on because I've just been too sick to be able to sit in front of a computer and talk to people. So that's the long and the short of it. And I'm much better now and looking forward to starting to feel normal again. So one of the things that I realised through all of this is that could explain why I had so much trouble knitting my Susanna IC shawl, which is called, what have I called it? She has called it, sorry, the Meristem shawl. If you remember, I think it was a couple of podcasts ago, I said that I'd been working on it, really enjoying working on it after having finished the Hexi blanket, and was really looking forward to having it finished in time to show on the podcast. And then I started to make massive mistakes. And I couldn't work out how I was making the mistakes because I was checking every single repeat of the pattern. I was checking it and I still made mistakes. So it's a relief to know that it wasn't that I'm just so stupid I can't do lace, but that my brain just wasn't functioning properly. So hopefully, as I continue to get better, I'll be able to go back onto this and get it finished. So, I think that's all I want to say about that. Just talking about the Hexi blanket again, I have finished it and I showed it to you in the last podcast, and I was waiting to find out more about a dyeing process that might help me overcome the different colours that were in it. Unfortunately, the company that sells the dyes says to me, no, there is nothing that will work for it because, and this is what I've been told by many people, so you're all nodding your head now saying, yeah, I told you so. That's okay. Yeah, so to get a dye that will dye wool, it won't dye acrylic, and to get an acrylic yarn dye, it won't dye wool. So it ended up, it wasn't worth the hassle, and I'm not going to bother. So still yet unsure what I'm going to do with the blanket. Probably, as I said last time, it'll sit on my lounge and someone will snuggle up under it when it's cold, and that's where it'll stay for the rest of its life. So that's that. Now, the sock yarn blanket. I have been working non-stop on my sock yarn blanket, and I think I mentioned last podcast that I realised if I kept working on it non-stop, I was really being very monogamous. If I worked on it non-stop, I was eventually going to get sick of it. And because I was working on it non-stop while I was sick, being sick added to that sense of, oh, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I shouldn't have been knitting. I should have been resting, but I can't lie down. So that's the end of that. So as a result of that, I have decided to start looking at other projects that I can do along with this, which means the progress on this is going to be slower, but at least I won't get to the point that I hate it. So let me just show you what I've done since I last showed it to you. It really is growing rapidly. I have no idea why I made it as wide as I made it. Too late now, can't get rid of them, so I'm stuck with the width. And that's going to take a lot longer to finish, but it'll be lovely when it's finished. So I put in little clips where I have started since you last saw them. So this shows you the progress of what I've done. I did another big one, and remember I was saying I couldn't work out whether to, because this one was here, whether to put the next one here, and then did that have to all be sorted out? So instead of looking at anything about where the other one was, I just thought, yep, that's a good spot, and I stuck it there. So I don't know how it's going to work with the other one. Where is the other one? Oh, it's over the other side. I'll show you in a minute. So continuing on, showing you wherever the pins are and above is what you haven't seen since I recorded a fortnight ago. So as you can see, I've done a lot of knitting on this blanket. So there's the big one there that I did originally, and over here is the big one. So they're at quite a distance away, and I've probably ended up doing what I didn't want to do to start with, but tough, that's the way it is. If I just do them spontaneously, then there won't be any planning and it'll be okay, I think. So I counted up yesterday, and I think I've done 49 squares since you last saw it. So that's a lot of knitting. I have been working on it non-stop. But as I said, I decided I needed to do some other projects because I couldn't stick to that all the time. So instead of starting something new, I decided, this is a shock, I'd actually go back and finish some things that were unfinished. And I hate to say it, this is a confession, it started my polygamy big time. I think I've got it under control now, but it did start my polygamy. I was looking at all sorts of things and think, oh, I could knit that, and oh, I could knit that, and da-da-da-da-da. No, I've settled down to a few things, and you're going to get a shock at how many things that I'm going to be working on. But I'm satisfied now with what I've decided. So, to start with, the first thing I went to look at, I knew that a long, long time ago, I had started another, and I can't even think what the name, Dreambird. A Dreambird shawl. Now, if you've been watching my podcast from the very beginning, you'll know that I did a Dreambird shawl for my sister for her birthday, or for, no, I think it was for a birthday. And I absolutely loved it. I hated giving it away because I loved it so much. Several of my friends told me not to give it away, to give her something else, because it suited me so well, and I just loved it. But no, I'd made it for her, so I gave it to her. So I had a lot of the yarn left over and decided I was going to make myself one. So I had started and I'd gotten this far. Let me get all the yarn out of the way so that you can see it better. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. There you go. So that's how much I had done. This isn't showing a true colour here. This colour here is purple. A really beautiful deep purple. And then you can see that the leaves, or in the case of the original pattern, they're supposed to be feathers, but I call them leaves. Well, I called this one Bird of Paradise because I think it just looks like the Bird of Paradise flower. So anyway, I'd gotten that far with the yarn I had left over. The purple one, by the way, is, it's Soft Like Kittens, which is a net in New Zealand. Soft Like Kittens, it's the noodle sock, and it's called Muscat. And I bought 2 balls. That's actually giving you a slightly better look of it now. It's still a little bit blue, but you can see how it is purple, and it's nicely shaded. So I bought 2 balls of that because the last one I made, I just didn't quite have enough of both to get the whole thing finished. So I thought this time I'll buy enough and make sure. So then, let me just explain this one. This yarn is from Skein, and it was called Speakeasy, and that's how much I had left of it. So I thought, okay, well, I've got to buy another skein of that to make sure I've got enough. So I bought a skein, and at the time that it arrived, I wasn't working on this, so I just put it in the bag, didn't think anything more about it. When I got this out to work on it, thinking this is an ideal project to do along with my sock yarn blanket, I realised that the next skein is nothing like the original one. Now, I understand that dyeing techniques, when they're hand dyed, they never come out the same. I understand that, but I hadn't realised there would be such a difference in the colour. Now, you can see this is definitely based on the same colour combinations, but you can see how sharp these colours are compared to this one. Now, I had a choice. I could have undone what I've done here and start again with this ball and probably have enough to finish the project with enough leaves on it that I wanted. But when I looked at that compared to that, I wasn't sure that I wanted to do all of that work for something that didn't burst out like this one does. And it just wouldn't burst the same. I think that's what is so beautiful about this, is that these colours just burst with such beautiful depth in them. And this to me just seems so dull. In fact, if I'd bought that first, I probably wouldn't have been very impressed with it. Now, I'm not saying anything against skein yarn. Please don't think that. I understand the dyeing process can never produce the same thing, and it's the same over and over again for me. I never buy enough, and therefore I'm sorry when I haven't. So I'm learning that lesson over and over again. But I didn't know it would be this dramatically different. So I have several choices. One is undo that, use the other one, and just forget that the first one was really bright. The other is to buy yet another yarn, a skein of yarn, that has really bright colours in it. And I was looking on the skein website on the stuff that she's got in stock. And I'm presuming that if the photo is on the website that it's in stock, then it's the photo of the exact piece, which means that it will look like that, within reason, when I receive it. So I could just go for a totally different colour. She has nothing at all like Speakeasy anymore. That is no longer a dye that she does or a colour scheme that she does. So I could look at, say, really pretty greens and yellows together, or there's lots of other really beautiful yarns that she has on the website. But they're not this one. And this one was what delighted my heart. So the third choice is not to do anything. Is just undo the whole thing, put the yarn away, and forget that I was ever going to have another beautiful shawl for me. So I don't know. We'll think about that one. Because after that, I went on to other unfinished projects, what I've decided is to just put it aside. Just leave it alone, get the other things done, and then look at yarn over a period of time and see if there's something else I can find that really strikes my fancy the way that does. I think because that one was so vibrant, nothing else really comes up to it. So we'll see. But in the process of that, where's the other bag? I also, excuse me, I had also started another of the same pattern. I was going to make another one out of yarns from Wollombi Wool Store so that it could be put up as a display in the store, and when people saw it they could buy the yarn to make the item that they were going to make or that they liked. So again, I had gotten 2 leaves done in the yarn that I had purchased from Wollombi Wool Store. So when that last one failed, I thought, oh, blow, all right, I'll get the other one out and I'll do that. But when I got it out, I really wasn't thrilled with what I had used. One of the yarns, which is this one, is Misty Alpaca, and I had chosen it again for all those beautiful colours that would make the leaves look just lovely, or the feathers, as they call them, really lovely. But I had been using another yarn that really was too thick, and I just didn't like the way the two were going together. So then I searched through my stash and I found some other yarn that I had bought last year at the Sydney craft show that we'd gone to, and I bought this from Prudence Mapstone, and this is Frog Tree Pettiboo sock yarn. Bit light there, see that? Yep, that's better. Okay, so this is also a sock yarn. It's got 80% merino and 20% bamboo, so maybe, yeah, it says it's a sock yarn. Okay, so I had 3 balls of this, and at the time I didn't know what I was going to do with them, so I thought, okay, well, I'll include those. So I undid the other one that I'd half done, and I started doing this one. And I don't like it. Still don't like it. And again, I think it's because the other one was so vibrant that I look at this and think, it really doesn't catch my eye at all. Now, I know it would be lovely finished. I know it would be a very subtle but still very attractive shawl. I don't know. It's really not bringing me unstuck. It doesn't make me look at it and think, oh, I've got to do some more stitches now. So I'm thinking of frogging that completely and forgetting the whole thing, because now it's no good to show in the Wallenby Wool store because I'm using yarn that I bought from Prudence. So it loses the reason for it being made to start with, and I'm not happy with it. So I'm thinking it's going to go back to its original state and maybe use the yarn for something else. So I was still left with a dilemma of what I was going to knit alongside my sock yarn blanket. Then I remembered that I had a blanket. Yes, you know this because I've got lots of blankets unfinished. I had a blanket that I started well over 2.5 years ago. And I had decided at some point in time that this was going to be for my grandson, Michael. And I thought, okay, I'll get that out and I will finish it. So I had already sewn together I was doing it in strips. So there's squares of 40 stitches and, well, however many rows it makes to make that a square. And there's 10 squares. So it's quite tall. And I'd already sewn 3 together. I had 2 more, or I was finishing off 1, which gave me 2 more to sew together. And I was hoping and hoping that that would be enough, that 5 strips would be enough as a blanket for Michael. Because Michael's quite tall, so he needed it to be tall. But when I finished putting all 5 together, I realised, no, it's going to need at least 1 more strip. So let me just hold this up. I have no idea whether this is the top or the bottom, but I'll hold it up. So I'm holding that so that it's touching the floor, so you can see just how big it is. And to show you what I'm doing, it's a simple stitch. I think there's 4 rows of stocking stitch and 4 rows of garter stitch, and it just changes up all the way along. So that's the blanket I'm doing for Michael, but I can't really show you how wide there to there. So while it fits comfortably around me and would tuck in around me, I think he needs it bigger. So it's going to get at least 1 more strip of knitting on it. So I started that one. As I say, I finished 1 strip and now I've started the 6th strip. So that's something that I'm working on progressively now. And I had to go and buy more yarn for it yesterday from Big W because that's where I got the yarn. You'll probably be saying, what is the yarn? And I haven't brought it in here with me. It's the, I think it's Panda Super Soft 8-ply yarn. Very cheap. It'd want to be for the size of that blanket. And typically the colours are almost always the same, so it didn't matter that I'm buying new stuff because they're in squares and they all match anyway. So that's one that I'm working on. Then, what else do I want to confess to? Then I was going through my other bags of unfinished stuff and I came across this one. Is that the right way? That's the right way. Now, I don't know if you can see. Oh, yes. It's showing up quite well. Now, this I started for my nephew. So, not really my nephew. My sister's grandson. What does that make him to me? Something. I can't remember. And I started making that, I think, well, sometime last year. I can't remember when. And I got about to here. Oh, maybe to there. And I really got fed up with the pattern. It's a 4-line pattern. It's very attractive. It gives a beautiful finish. It's 1 row knit, 1 row purl, 1 row knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and then the next row you purl 1 and then you knit through the bottom of the next knit stitch and then purl 1, knit through the bottom. So the fourth row just goes on and on and on. It just never finishes. And so I looked at this and thought, oh, I think I might just frog the whole thing. And then I reprimanded myself and said, come on, Joyce, you can do this. So I am deliberately working on this, and I am going to get it finished. Let me show you the pattern. This is obviously a smaller child. He will be 4 when I give this to, almost 4 this winter. So I'm not sure about this neck. I don't know if that neck, that collar, is any good for older children. It's certainly cute on this little guy. Just not sure about it for an older child. So I'm trying to work out how I could just ignore all of that and just knit up and have just a normal collar around it. But we'll work on that. So this book is Let's Get Knitting. It's an Australian book, so I'm sorry if you like this and think you'd like to get the book. It is an Australian magazine, so you would have to probably have it posted over to you. But yeah, there's a few patterns in here that are nice, but typically in magazines you only get 1 or 2 that you like and the rest isn't worth it. So that's another project that I am working on. And then, this is so embarrassing, I went through yet another bag of knitting that I had not finished. And as soon as I saw this again, I thought, oh, I've just got to finish it. It's just too gorgeous not to. So maybe I'll show you the pattern first. This is out of the Debbie Bliss Baby Cashmerino book. I'm sure there's several in this series. I can't see what this one is saying, but I'm sure I've seen other things. So anyway, the pattern is, when I get there to show it to you, there we go. That's the pattern. Just gorgeous. Now, I'm not sure if there's a front view somewhere. There's the front of it. I don't know if you can see that or not. There you go. So it's a cardigan. And at the time I started knitting this, I don't know who I was going to do it for because I didn't have my sister's new granddaughter at that stage. But anyway, she'll probably end up with this now. But instead of doing the little bear, I decided to do diamonds. So that's the right side of the cardigan. That's the left side of the cardigan, and that's the back, which is gorgeous. Obviously needs good blocking. I've never blocked anything like this, so it'll be an interesting experience. So I had started on one sleeve when I stopped doing this. And when I looked at it again, I thought, I can't understand why I didn't finish it because it's just so gorgeous. And the moment I look at it, I think, oh, I've just got to knit that again. I'd like to knit another one. Then when I looked at the sleeve, not this one because I've undone it since, the sleeve I'd done, and I'd probably done more than what is here, it was in moss stitch. And I'm not keen on moss stitch. I love the way it looks, but I really don't like doing an entire sleeve, and in this case 2 sleeves, with moss stitch. So I started to do it yesterday. I thought I'll blow this, work on it and just do it. I even tried to do it in Continental because doing moss stitch, doing anything that has knit 1 purl 1 or a combination is so much easier to do in Continental. So I started to do it in Continental, but of course then my gauge didn't line up with when I'd done it English style because I'm much looser in Continental. So I decided without a doubt I was going to undo it. Then I had to decide, will I do it again in moss stitch and do it Continental, the whole thing, or will I just do it in stockinette? And in the end, as you can see, I decided to just do it in stockinette. So I've got that far. on the first sleeve, and then I'll get the second sleeve finished, and then it will be finished. So the yarn, what have I done with my book? The yarn is Debbie Bliss. So it is the baby cashmerino. And of course this one, they've done it in the cream with the little teddy bears, but I've done mine in the green. I don't know that I don't even have a ball band. Oh yes I do, to tell you what colour that green is. It doesn't tell me, it just says it's 340203. So that's all of that, and I promise I'm going to get that finished. I'm really delighting in it, and now that my sister's granddaughter has arrived, I know that this will be a beautiful addition to her wardrobe, so I'm definitely going to finish it. Now, is there anything else to confess? No, except that I have a finished product. So, finished project product. When my granddaughter saw this morning, she said, "Why?" I said, "Because I could." So I'll show it to you first, and then I'll show you the pattern. So it's a little hat and a little neck warmer, and it's for your eggs. So they couldn't comprehend why, my granddaughter and her partner couldn't understand why you would want a hat for your egg. They obviously don't eat soft-boiled eggs for breakfast. So I said, well, you put it on the egg when it comes out to keep it warm until your toast is cooked. So that was a new concept to them. So I just thought he was gorgeous. And I thought he would be delightful if you've got kids that you're giving Easter eggs to make one for each Easter egg. I think that's gorgeous. All right, let me show you the book. So again, it comes out of an Australian book called Knitted Favourites. I think I got this one as a free book. You know, when you buy a book and it's in a package and there's a free book in the back of it, and I think that's how I got this one. And this is the pattern. So they're gorgeous, aren't they? All in different colours. Okay, so that's my finished object. Very pleased with myself. Not. Alright, they're my confessions. I hate to say that there are still some confessions in my cupboard that haven't come out yet. So they might one day. But I am planning on getting each of these finished, which does mean that my sock yarn blanket won't progress as fast as it has been. But that's not a problem now, because the show that I was making it for in September has now been postponed because they couldn't get the venue they wanted. It wasn't working properly. So rather than hassle over it at this stage, they've postponed it for another time. So I've got lots more time to finish it. And every time I've done some other knitting and I pick it back up again, it's a delight again. So I know I've done the right thing by going on to other projects as well. Okay, I think that is all to do with knitting. So now just a few things that I wanted to highlight to you. You remember I said some time ago that Knit Companion was trying to raise enough money to be able to create a totally different platform for Knit Companion so that it worked on Android as well as Apple. For those of us who have an Apple object, an iPad or whatever, computer, it wasn't a problem because we can use Knit Companion and everything's fine. So why would we care about putting money into having a program that worked for Androids? Apart from wanting all of our other knitting family to be able to enjoy it as well, the long-term advantage was going to be that because of the new platform that she was going to design it on, it meant that anything she did would work better both on Android and on Apple. So that we who have Apple things would still have an advantage because it would be in far greater control within her hands compared to relying on what Apple software does. Now, as an example of that, in about 3 updates ago in Apple, in iOS, they had some sort of bug that affected Knit Companion package. And as you would move the screen up or enlarge it or something, you'd suddenly lose everything. And you'd have to bring it all back together to get the picture to show up again. It was really, really frustrating when you were working on a project and every now and then the screen would disappear. Excuse me. Just recently, you will all be pleased to know who have iPads, Apple have fixed that problem. So the latest iOS update has fixed that problem. I haven't tested it yet, but I did get an email from Sally saying that it was fixed. So I presume it is. Now, why I am bringing this all up again, as I said, Knit Companion didn't raise the amount of money they needed to raise in order to do the huge big changes. So now Sally has set up a survey that she would like to hear from anybody who is a knitter or a crocheter or anybody who thinks that they could use this program. She wants to hear from you as to what it is that you would like to use. Would you be interested in it? What sort of things that you like to do, etc., what you're working on. What I'd like to ask you to do is go along and fill in that survey. It doesn't cost you anything. There is a prize for somebody at the end of it that she's going to give a yarn prize. And what it does is builds up her knowledge of what the general public, knitting, crocheting public desires. And hopefully that will help her as she progresses to know what it is that is needed in the knitting and crocheting world. So if you are happy to go along and do the survey, it's on her website. So it's knitcompanion, all one word, .com/survey/. If you can't get all that in, just Google Knit Companion. It'll come up with their front page, and then you can go to the survey. So it's only a few minutes to fill in the survey, and it will give enormous amounts of information to Sally to help her progress in all that she's doing in her packages for the future and for us. So please go and do that. Now the Yazzie giveaway is going to be finished for the first podcast in April. I haven't looked at the date, so I don't know what that day is. But anyway, we'll be drawing that. So the prize is, excuse me again for reaching, is a lovely knitting bag. Very big. You can see it would hold a lot. That base opens up. Doesn't want to open up at the moment with nothing in it. And it's got, I was going to say it's got pockets on the outside, but it hasn't. It has got one pocket, a very long zippered pocket on the inside. Alright, so that's up for somebody to win the first podcast in April. So all you have to do is go to the Yazzie site and like them on Facebook, and then come back to the Ravelry page for Aussie Yarning and go to that thread and put your name or say that you want to register for that, and we'll do that draw next month. Oh yes, another thing that I wanted to highlight. It's interesting, I've not heard any other podcasters anywhere talk about Liatgat. That's Liatga, I think it's double T. Liat has been an inspiration to me for many, many years. She's the type of person that loves to teach, has learned how to use a video camera to record her teaching of different things. She was the originator who taught me how to do continental knitting. It wasn't till I didn't master it properly until I got to the Hunter Knitters Guild and someone there helped me to see it. I always like to be next to someone when I learn something, and then it all fell into place when Anna was showing me. But it was Liat who first introduced me to continental knitting and showed on one of her videos how to do it. She has a multitude of videos on almost every subject you could come up with in knitting. And quite a bit of what she's got is free. But she also produces ebooks that you have to buy, and they're full of information. So the most recent one that she's put out is on bind-offs. There are 45 different bind-offs that she's produced in this ebook. And along with all the enormous information and pictures, she also has video links to each of the designs that are there. So that as you're working on it, you can click on the video link, it'll take you straight to her video, and you can see her actually doing it. Now this one's not the cheapest. I think at the moment it's $49.95. I'm not sure if that's US price or Australian price. I think it's US. It was a bit cheaper when she first produced it and made it available to everyone who is already subscribed to her website. And I bought it, and then when I was buying it, typical of when people sell things, if I wanted to spend an extra $10, I could get her ebook on cast-ons. I thought, why not for $10? So I ordered that as well. Now, I haven't looked at them in depth at the moment. I suspect it's the sort of package that you would look at when you're about to cast on or when you're about to cast off and you want to know different ways to do it, or a pattern tells you to do it one way and you don't know how to do it, so she will show you. So I want to highly recommend Liat Gat. Her website is called Knit Freedom. So all one word, knitfreedom.com. If you go there, you will find lots of free videos to watch. Be great to sign up and get her newsletter because she's always coming up with something new. And she's just a beautiful person. So I highly recommend her to you to go and have a look. And if you want to get all those bind-offs, when you go onto the page that shows about the bind-offs, she did 200 different bind-offs in order to work out how to give us 45 of the best. So she has a little video playing of all these bind-offs piling up as she created them. So it's an interesting way that she's done it. She's very good with technology. So her website is really good. So go along and visit Liat. You'll be very pleased you did. All right. I think that's it. I've done well. 42, nearly 43 minutes. And I've finished talking. And I don't think that there's anything else that I've forgotten to tell you. Just quickly going through my list to have a look. Oh, yes, the one thing I did forget to tell you. I mentioned to you last podcast that I had finally finished writing the pattern for the sock yarn blanket. And I've recently sent it out to several people who are testing it for me. Anuska of Swedutch Handcrafts podcast has already mentioned it on her podcast. So I really appreciate that, Anuska, that you did that. And Anuska also has a different way of joining her blocks compared to the way I do it. So that's fine, then you get two different things to learn. So this isn't yet up as a free pattern in Ravelry. I was hoping to wait until the test knitters had done it to prove that there weren't any mistakes and to fix up anything that was wrong. But then I thought, well, it's a free pattern anyway. And if I put a warning saying this has not been perfectly tested, I'm happy for anybody to download it and start using it if that suits you. So just be aware there could be mistakes, and I would very much appreciate if you would let me know what mistake so I can go and fix it for the future. But I will this week work out how to upload it to Ravelry so that you can download it and use it if you'd like to. So if you aren't familiar with the pattern, it comes originally from Shelley Kang, who is the Heathen Housewife. She's got a blog called The Heathen Housewife. And she started to do the blanket many years ago now. And she wrote up the pattern, but she did it in a bloggy way, so that it's within the talk of everything else she does. So she gave me permission to go ahead and to rewrite it in a more formalized style of patterning. And I've done that, hopefully giving you lots of diagrams to explain what I'm talking about. And I'd really appreciate people downloading it and using it and tell me if it works okay. So that'll be up there sometime this week. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to record next Sunday or if I'm going to stick to the fortnightly format. It was nice having last Sunday off, but having said that, it was still within a time when I was still feeling quite sick. So maybe now that I'm getting better, next Sunday will seem fine for me to record. So who knows? But you'll find out by the notification when it's up, and you'll know there's another podcast to watch. So thanks everybody for watching and for enjoying my podcast. I hope you enjoy it. If you don't, I presume you don't watch. So you must like it, mustn't you? I think. Okay, so until next time, remember, she'll be right, mate. Bye.